Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second edition of the newest series on Poker News, the PokerNews Debate series. Now, there are plenty of hotly debated subjects in the world of poker, and something that's come up relatively recently, mostly because of some of the bigger names that we've seen making the shift over, is what kind of moral responsibility, if any, do players that represent unregulated sites have? Now, we saw Chris Moneymaker make the move to ACR, Vanessa Kade, who has also been the subject of quite a lot of controversy recently, also is representing ACR, and this has just brought up some interesting issues of integrity, etc. Now, I'm going to introduce you guys to my colleagues who are going to be the ones doing the debating itself, although we're going to change the format a little bit for this one to make it a little bit more juicy, dicey, spicy, if you will. So each of the gentlemen is going to get 3 minutes to essentially lay down the platform of their debate. The other person will get a 1-minute rebuttal, and then it's going to come back to me to just fire at them all of your guys' questions, all of your responses, everything that I'm seeing on, the Twitter, on the Facebook, on the Twitch. I'm just going to respond to these guys to give us to backfire at us, if you will. So I think that will be kind of a fun way, and that's something I really enjoyed with the last debate, was incorporating your guys' insights and your guys' knowledge and expertise as people in the industry. So first up, I'm going to introduce you to Nuwwarah. Mo has been a poker player probably since he was born, but he has been a member of Team Poker News for at least as long as I have been, which is basically since the beginning of time. Come on, Mo, maybe like a year later or something. Mo's been around for a long time. He is 100% one of my favorite writers in the industry, and someone who has the kind of personality where I think he approaches things with a lot of logic and a lot of calmness. He's not going to get all spicy and crazy on us. He's not a Sarah Herring. First of all, Mo, welcome.
How's it going?
It's like always the awkward thing that has to happen in the show where you're like, hello, welcome to the show. And then there's like nothing to say. Jason, on the other side of the pond, Jason Glatzer, who also has been with Poker News for basically an eternity, someone very well respected in the industry, someone who has their hands on a lot of what's going on in poker, both in Europe and also in the United States. Jason, you've got to give yourself a little bit of cred. He is originally an American. Now he's a resident Lithuanian, but someone that I just really appreciate. Jason has a deep love for the game of poker and still plays all the time. Recently purchased a post office, which I think he's going to turn into some kind of poker playing facility, I hope. Jason, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for all the kind words as well.
Absolutely. And we want to welcome, surprise, it's Jesse. What's up, my darling? And also Kristen Moshman, the future Sarah Herring, actually. When I go on to maternity leave, I'm hoping to welcome Kristen to the team to do all of the heavy lifting.
Go,
all right,
Kristen.
so without further ado, let us just get right into it. So as I mentioned before, neither of these guys, I think I mentioned it, if not I did on social media, neither of these guys are expressing their personal opinions, although it might actually be, but they were both assigned the side of the subject that they were going to take in advance. So don't get mad at them, and please don't throw out like ad hominem attacks based on whatever your personal opinions are. These may or may not be their personal opinions. So we are going to start with Jason, who is going to be arguing on the side of the pro, which means that Jason is arguing that yes, indeed, you do have a moral responsibility if you are going to be an ambassador for a regulated site. So can we prepare ourselves, load up? Jason, you're going to be given 3 minutes to give us all the facts and reasons why you think it's essential. And to try to convince us that they do have, in fact, a moral responsibility. Okay, and let me know, are you ready, Jason?
I am ready.
You are ready, and fire.
So do site ambassadors have an ethical responsibility if they're representing unregulated sites? And I believe emphatically, yes, they do have a responsibility. And this recent question, as Sarah already pointed out, came to the minds of a lot of poker players with the recent surge of ACR signings of Chris Moneymaker, Randy Liu, John Ape Styles Van Fleet, and most recently Vanessa Kade. These are all very impressive poker players, all poker players, their accomplishments at the tables and also in the poker community as well. They've all done different things, but something to be proud of. But as site ambassadors of an unregulated site, I believe that they should have an extra responsibility than that of a normal site ambassador, due to history, but due to other things as well. Now, we're not talking about, let's say, like an athlete like Michael Jordan being slapped on a Wheaties box, right? We don't expect Michael Jordan to be an expert on cereal. We expect Michael Jordan to be an expert on basketball, maybe what sneakers to wear, things like that. We expect a poker player to be an expert on what they're representing when online poker. We expect that if a Chris Moneymaker goes behind a brand, that everything is on the up and up. And history has told us otherwise when it comes to unregulated sites. Now, ACR has been the best of the bunch when it comes to unregulated sites. Has been, other than, let's say, like a bot scandal, there's never been complaints about people cashing out. But at the end of the day, it's an unregulated site that at any point, players should be warned that their money may not be safe. We don't know how the money is being stored. We don't know what will happen if the US government comes crashing down at ACR. We don't know if anybody will save the day. I mean, we just have to look back at Black Friday, when it's very easy to have hindsight and say those ambassadors should have also maybe warned us a little bit more about what's happening. But it was a different environment than Black Friday. And we should learn that when the shit hits the fan, there may not be an out. The out may be we're just closing shop and everybody is screwed. And it would be prudent, I believe, and morally responsible for site ambassadors to say, you know what, I play here, I stand behind the brand, they've been at it for this amount of time, but your money could be at further risk than that at regulated online poker rooms, which are more protected, also held by publicly traded organizations, et cetera, et cetera. The last thing you want to do as a site ambassador is be, let's say, in a lock poker situation, which happened after Black Friday. Players should have known better. And you saw ambassadors staying with the brand, even as there were signs coming that this wasn't right. And yes, I believe ambassadors should stand up. It's fine to represent the brand, but also say the downside, sort of like an alcohol ad where at the end, be responsible, don't drink and drive type of thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You might have had me with a few things there. You make a few good points. I guess that is the function of the debate. But before we get too into some of the points you made and some questions, it's time to go over to our boy Mo, who is going to be representing the negative side, or the no, which is that players do not have a moral responsibility when representing unregulated sites. Mo, do you feel prepared and ready for this?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's load up our time clock. Let's hear it.
All right. So the goal in poker is to make money, right? Especially when you're a professional player. These people are playing for a living. They're trying to make money to put food on the table and pay the bills. And as part of that, they take these sponsorships. And in that role, they're employees. Like, their role doesn't have anything to do with operations. Typically, I mean, there's maybe some exceptions to this, but like, did Lock Poker call Annette Oberstad before they stole everyone's money and just be like, hey, just to let you know, we're stealing everybody's money? Like, I don't think that happened. I'd be surprised. she should probably get as much blame as, a programmer, or even, to put a more close analog, somebody in the marketing department, right? Because that's what she is. And I guess it's likely she had zero input on anything that had anything to do with the fact that people's money was stolen. I'm not saying, you should just throw on a patch anybody who slides you $1, but I think these poker players most likely have had good experiences personally on these black market sites, so they feel comfortable enough to put on a patch. And if things go south, does it look great for them? Not really, right? But I think, there is a distinction between somebody who has a hand in operations and somebody who doesn't, right? Like, we see it with Full Tilt Poker, where Phil Ivey, Mike Matisow, initially people might have cast a sideways glance at them when shit hit the fan, but they're not treated the way Howard Lederer and Chris Ferguson are these days, right? So I think ultimately, these people who are potential customers need to educate themselves and understand the risk and make informed purchasing decisions. There's enough resources out there for you to figure out these things if you really want to. And I think, I do somewhat see the point of like the alcohol sales thing. That's a pretty good analogy, but I think maybe pointing people somewhere where they can do their own research in some way would be plenty, in my opinion. I don't think it's on them to just like go into the back room, talk to the CEO, say, "Hey, do we got this money squirreled away?" And yeah, I just don't think it's really part of the job description.
All right. Also, some very solid points, I must say, and I'm definitely looking forward to where this debate is going to go. You guys know I have we've already got quite a few questions popping in, quite a few opinions. But what I wanted to at least offer the option of a rebuttal, but it's going to be very short. So you really have to prepare yourself, maybe take whatever is the main point you think of the other debater and ride with that one main issue, because you're only going to have 60 seconds. So we're going to go back to Jason, who again is arguing that ambassadors do have a responsibility when representing these unregulated sites. We're going to load up 1 minute of rebuttal time for Jason. Let's get it.
Okay, I'm going to take one of Mo's points and twist it a little bit. I agree with it, but maybe not from the angle that he's looking at it. I believe that the site ambassadors are a marketing tool. So they are a marketing arm of the site. That's what they're paid to do, whether it's because they're a big Twitcher, a big name, or for any other reason. Now, on the flip side, I'll dump in affiliates into this group. If you're actively going out and signing people up to gray market sites, I feel that also you should be held morally responsible. Like it's of explaining what that means, what you're actually signing up for. It's similar to like if, I'm buying, let's say, an advanced piece of electronics, I'm going to look at what the experts are recommending, and maybe they're paid for that opinion, maybe not, but I don't expect them to stand behind, let's say, like an inferior brand. It's the same with affiliates. And I would argue, PokerNews, we do marketing as well. We have a moral responsibility as well. And this is not the opinion of PokerNews, but the opinion of me in terms of which sites, we promote, that we shouldn't promote gray area sites as well. So where's the difference? And sorry for.
Oh my gosh, you're like 10 seconds over. You're like 15 seconds over. I'm gonna have to give Mo an extra 15 seconds if he needs it.
God.
This, I feel very like Megyn Kelly right now. This is getting really, really juicy.
It would help if we had, let's say, the timer on the screen next time. I think I'm getting whispered, but then I'm already like, I know I have 20 seconds left.
You
to
start it on your
10
phone.
seconds left.
Yeah,
I could start on my phone.
Get your shit together, Jason.
That's technology.
This is not your first rodeo, okay? All right, we're going to move to Mo's rebuttal, which, he is, again, taking the position that these ambassadors do not have some great moral responsibility to, I guess, indicate that the sites are unregulated. Mo, you only have 60 seconds, and as we have seen, that goes very fast. So get yourself ready, put your track shoes on. We're ready, and go. And you're muted. Just kidding.
I'm ready. No, I mean, one of the things he was saying was, you know, we don't know what will happen with these sites. Well, I don't think these people do either, you know? So that's why I don't think it's really up to them to say this stuff. And if they want to couch it and say, well, you know, there's regulated competitors, you know, then at that point, they're just not even an effective ambassador, right? And then if they don't do that, someone else is gonna get that check. Someone else is gonna be able to more effectively, you know, put food on the table for their kids. So, you know, again, they're not part of the operations. I get it, but I just don't think it's that realistic to expect. And, you know, I'm not trying to blame a victim here if people get scammed. I just want to say people should do their own research and make informed decisions as customers.
All right. So many thoughts. I'm going to get to some more of your guys' questions, but I'm going to start with just a few things to begin with. Now, I'm going to put you in the hot seat, Jason, to start. And that's, I think, one of the interesting subjects within the context of this conversation is that the ambassador term is very different, I think, in different situations. So for our, media for this debate, we used the examples of Chris Moneymaker, Vanessa, Kade, and ACR, which seems to be a very these are big names. It's probably the biggest unregulated site at this point. But I do think there's a distinction between, say, for example, like Poker Bros or something where you are inviting people to your game and that potentially running things that you are sort of involved in, very much receiving money specifically for how many people come based on you, versus this more being an ambassador in a way that seems a little bit more vague. And as Mo mentioned, maybe you're not part of, say, the accounting logistics, or you're just a face in marketing. So I guess what I would ask, Jason, to you is, what would you suggest as they're, say, negotiating contracts or working out their relationship? Would you suggest that it is these poker players' responsibility to say, yes, you can use my face on your site, but I'm also always going to say that people might lose all of their money when I promote your site? Or what, does it seem unreasonable a little bit to you?
I think it could be termed a little bit more neutral, basically just explaining, the situation, even it could be a blog post, but some kind of visibility that you're explaining this to the poker community. It's, I'm not going to compare ACR with lock poker, but I can compare it with, let's say, not even like a full tilt, but something, let's say, closer to that, where they're basically big in the American market for many years. They aren't showing signs of problems. When some things come up, they're either dealt with or they're not dealt with until they're dealt with. When Doug and Joey, bring out issues about bots, but that's not really what this is about. Bots can happen on any site. It's a matter of how you react to it. But yes, at the end of the day, what's stopping another Black Friday from happening? States, more and more states now are regulating online poker. So there's going to be a point in time where it could even just be a group of states getting together and said, we've had enough of this. You're taking away from our regulated offering. Or a state like, Missouri, which maybe will never pass online poker, may just get fed up and, do something on their own. There may, I don't know what state laws, what federal laws, they're violating. It's very questionable. And what happened on Black Friday was very scary. If poker stars behaved the same way that Full Tilt and Ultimate Poker went, we'd be looking at, we may not even be sitting here talking about anything, because the whole industry would have blown up at that point. it would have rebounded, but how the online poker would have rebounded, it would have taken many years to rebound if everybody lost their money on PokerStars, Full Tilt, and Ultimate Bet at the same time. It's not to say anything, like, and like to go to the point where they should keep their mouths shut for a paycheck. These aren't people that are hurting for money. It's not.
You don't know
It's
that,
not
Jason.
that they're.
You don't know that.
I don't know that, but Vanessa Kade just won the Sunday Million. Abe Styles is winning stuff left and right. You see Randy Liu constantly streaming. He's a great commentator, and you see.
Okay, let me ask you this question, because you mentioned at the
Yes.
very end of your rebuttal about PokerNews, and that we specifically choose because of our moral, I'm fairly certain it's a legal responsibility, that we do not promote unregulated sites on PokerNews. That being said, if we're using the same logic, I can remember several years ago when PokerStars disassembled the Supernova Elite program and really changed a lot of the landscape for really regular poker players. Poker players were furious. And as a result, it was very hard for, I imagine you, certainly me, to do my job and perform my role, right, as the face of PokerNews, in that all of these people who were really angry at PokerStars didn't want to like associate with me or talk with me or whatever it was. When for me, it was like, I didn't make these decisions. I know these are unpopular decisions, but this is not necessarily, just because I'm the face of PokerNews doesn't mean I'm a part of what makes all of the decisions popular or unpopular as the higher ups go. So like, I also think the question would be, at what point do you relinquish a certain amount of control for the people who are faces?
So what port of control? And can you rephrase the question, because there was a lot there?
Sure. So as unpopular opinions and unpopular decisions happen, or things that cost people money happen on a business level, how much do the people who are the faces of those companies become responsible for those things?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if you're the face of the company and people signed up from you, you're not legally responsible. You should feel morally responsible. You should maybe be up a few nights. If I was an ambassador at Lock Poker because I made, let's say, some awful life decisions, and I knew that a lot of people signed up and lost, combined hundreds of thousands of dollars, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Would I be feeling legally responsible? No. At the end of the day, I was a marketing tool. The end user is still the ultimate one making a contract with it's not a contract, but an agreement with the poker site when they sign up to play. So at the end of the day, legally, I don't feel you're responsible, but morally, you were the conduit to get the player from point A to point B, especially if that player never heard of the site before, or is only playing there because you're one of the faces on the site. I think there's a big differentiation between legal and moral. I think legally, it's basically just doing whatever is in the contract. But where it can be different is if you want to behave morally, sometimes it might be actually behaving illegally because you may have to break terms of your contract. But I
Which
think in
brings up
this
an
case with
interesting,
ACR, you should make that clear when you're signing up, especially when you're these guys that, yes, I may make statements that were unregulated, or I know that they have a gaming authority regulating them, but they're unlicensed is the best word in the United States, where most of their players are. And that could affect players around the world. I hear people all the time in the UK asking where to play, and people recommend ACR. They'll recommend places like the apps as well. Everybody seems to have their own app club joining unions nowadays, and you hear about the stories of people getting burned on those apps. It's kind of a wild west with that. That's a whole different topic for maybe another debate about the apps. But ACR has been, to be fair, it's not a site I'm ever going to promote. The people that are working there have always been pretty level-headed, I would have to say. The site itself has paid out consistently over the years, but you can't, if it's the unregulated bit that if you've been in poker as long as we have, and I know Ape Styles and Moneymaker were playing online at the beginning of the last decade, you should know some things, and you should know the difference between a gray area site and a regulated site, and behave
Oh, so
accordingly.
now you're trying to throw it out that people should probably know what they're doing a little bit, but that's neither
Yes.
here nor there, Jason. I'm going to have to throw some to Mo. So there's a couple of questions that I do think are key to this subject matter. And actually, I'm going to throw this to you, Mo. It's not actually necessarily to your point or to Jason's point, but just to give some explanation because there have been some questions. Is it even possible in the United States to become a regulated site right now?
Is it possible to become regulated? I think it is. I mean, it's tough because you're just behind the 8 ball at this point, and other people have first mover advantage and all that type of deal. But I think for a company that's already established in gray to black markets, it's going to be really tough, right? So, I mean, PokerStars pretty much had to get rid of their entire brass in order to do it, right? So, I wouldn't think it would be something that would be that realistic.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't understand all of the nuances either, but I have to imagine that it's the way that the federal government moves in most everything in the current times. I can't imagine that it's as easy, and so then it becomes sort of impossible or unrealistic for people within the United States. And we're going to bring this, we're going to bring up a question this is also relatively unrelated. And I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but there's several people in both the YouTube and the Twitch chat which have brought this up. And I think this is an interesting side question, which is, should ambassadors be able to have anyone banned from the site? And the reference here is about Michael Leck. So apparently him and Vanessa Kade were an item, and that after they broke up, Vanessa got him banned from the site. And is this unethical? Wait, Jesse's shaking his head. Maybe that's not what happened. Okay, well, we don't, this is what people are presupposing happened. I didn't say that's like a fact, right? This is what people are saying might have happened. And it's interesting because I don't really feel like there's any question as to whether or not that is unethical, right? Jason, I mean, that's unethical.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's a tricky question because I've always sided on the fact that if a poker site wants to ban a player for whatever reason, that they have the right to do so, even if that player wasn't cheating, even if they just didn't like the way they logged in that day, whatever algorithm being picked up, they have the right to refuse service as long as they're returning the money in a timely fashion. I have no issue with it, even though there are pros that are relying on some of these sites to play. And coincidentally, we had like Ape Styles in that situation with GG Poker, and I felt bad for Ape Styles, and I like him as a person quite a lot. And but at the end of the day, that what can you do? Like, why is that unethical to not provide your gaming services? So if the regulated sites can do it legally and not have any problem, I don't really see why ACR can't do it for whatever reason they're doing it. Now then it gets a little petty what you're saying, and pettiness and vindictiveness is maybe adjectives to use, but I'm not going to add to gossip here because I don't know exactly. This is kind of the first that I'm hearing about it, and I don't think it would be cool, but I don't think it's like unethical either if it went down that way.
Mo, what do you think? While we're just out here having the convo.
I mean, yeah, we don't know or whatever. I did see that he was getting in touch with them or whatever on Twitter the other day. And yeah, I guess that would be kind of amusing in a way, but pretty shitty. I don't know. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast or this show?
We did last time.
All right, good. I mean, I would just say anytime you fuck with somebody's money, somebody's ability to get a check, I mean, there's a distinction, right, between what Jason's saying. Yeah, if the site doesn't want to give you the business, I guess that's on them, that's whatever. But if there's like a person trying to do that, yeah, I think that's really shitty to do. And yeah, I don't think that's right at all.
It's
Or do you
very
think it's
interesting because
morally
actually, I
wrong?
think in the larger picture, this leads to lots of other questions, which we've already sort of gone over in the Supreme Court in several different situations, which is like how much space do businesses have to decide who they want to provide services to, which is certainly a question of, I think, liberty. But again, it goes back to, and this is an interesting, this is Unreal 11 said, is it unethical? Yes. Is it illegal? No, in my opinion, which I do think is kind of a little bit of what we're talking about in this debate to begin with. The difference between something that's, you know, morally wrong or legally wrong is quite often very far from each other. I think this is an interesting question, which is also sort of like a branch off from what we're talking about, but I'll throw it to Jason to start with anyways. If an ambassador had knowledge of cheating on a site that they represented, do they have a responsibility to report it immediately and not when they want revenge on the cheater?
I have no, that obviously is a very pointed question, a very pointed incident, and it's probably good that I don't know what incident it is. So if it'll be more of a blanket comment, but I believe first, it doesn't have to be like immediately that day, but it shouldn't wait until they have problems with the cheater either. There could be other ways of handling cheating at a site. Like I imagine, you know, like I respect Patrick Leonard quite a lot as a party poker ambassador. I imagine if he got word of the cheating, he would first look, and I don't mean to be speaking for you, Patrick, but just imagining what you would be doing would be, you would first look internally within Party Poker. Party Poker has a very big anti-cheating group or anti-collusion. I don't even know what they call it, but something related to preventing cheating. And I think he would try to handle it internally first before blasting someone out. But at the end of the day, if you bring it internally and nothing happens, and you're just using it as, let's say, like a tool in your arsenal, I don't, you know, that's just it's not blackmail, but it's, you know, the timing is awful there. You know, it's, if you're going to be morally correct, and you could be morally correct by not saying anything at all if you dealt with the problem, and if the problem's not dealt with, then yes, you need to let people know that this is what happened. But yeah, I don't think you need to necessarily make it a big social media issue that someone cheated, you know, and that you found out about it and that you dealt with it.
Everything
I
has
think
to
then
be
it
debated
becomes
on social
kind of like a
media.
site. Yeah.
That's
But
what we do.
there's so many things that are reported to online poker rooms. I know Alex Scott once told me at MPN that they discovered most of the cheating internally, but at the end of the day, they said they get so many emails back when MPN was running, you know, in terms of people reporting suspected cheating, and they looked into everything. So, you know, it's like I think it once again depends on the network. If you don't have reliance on the network that you're representing to properly investigate the situation and down what you think is a proper judgment, then yeah, you should probably go to social media. And then it goes back to Mo's thing. Well, yeah, you're being paid not to do those kind of things. And then it becomes a moral versus legal responsibility, and take it from there. I mean, I don't think money buys your silence per se. You know, it's and Vanessa kind of proved that to me. You know, like I felt that, and then she signed with ACR. You know, she may stand behind the brand because she was willing to stand up against what she strongly believed in with Dan Bilzerian at GG Poker, to the effect where she lost her lucrative affiliate deal that she had with them for many years, even though she wasn't actively promoting them. You know, so it's I think that these ambassadors all have some backbone, and then it's just a matter of you know, doing what you think is morally right and not always needing to take the company line. Sometimes there's a compromise between the two, but you know, at the end of the day, you want to be able to sleep well.
Okay, so this is just something I'm going to throw out there, Mo, just to get your opinion, because I also thought this was very interesting. But Dwayne on YouTube said, I think it's funny how Chris Moneymaker 6 years ago said on his stream he would never play or support unregulated sites like ACR. And now in 2021, he's an ACR ambassador. It makes you wonder why, what's happened now. And I actually I think it's interesting because I think I've quite a few poker players who 5 or 6 years ago wouldn't put their money on unregulated sites and were not interested in playing. I've seen now playing, and part of it makes me wonder if also it's just because now they've sort of had enough history that it can create that it's created a little bit more trust, or a little bit more what they feel like is some reliability? Or from your professional opinion, Mo, what do you think would inspire presumably one of the most well-named and loved names in poker to make a decision like this after publicly saying he probably never would?
I mean, it could be a lot of things, right? Like you said, first of all, the longer a place has a track record of not blowing up, that's just more and more evidence that it's probably not going to blow up. So maybe he feels more comfortable, the longer it goes on and the longer he sees shit's not going south, basically. And then on another level, I mean, I think I do believe some of the things he was saying in the pressers and whatnot about, like, well, he wants to spend more time at home. And with PokerStars, he's got to constantly travel abroad, right? I mean, Sarah, because we've done so many trips abroad and whatnot, and that, like, as you get a little bit older and or get a little bit more like settled into like family life, it becomes more of a chore to travel, and more of a pain in the ass too. Like you were saying, when a while back, I remember we were talking about how you go on a trip and you come back and it's just like you need like 48 hours to even feel like yourself again or whatever, And I mean, I think some of that's probably real. Like he probably is sick of, flying to Barcelona, flying home, flying to Macau, flying home. And I could see how that would get old. Absolutely. I know that to somebody outside the industry, that probably all sounds amazing. And it is. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. But at the end of the day, everything gets a little bit old at some point. So he might have just hit that point where he was just like sick of the travel and wants to be at home, but he needs these checks, right? And he's like, well, this is my best option at this point.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. And also, it's interesting because actually I was just in a position of being offered to be like the face sort of a company here in Texas that, the legality of what's going down here in Texas, like regardless of where I find it like morally ridiculous that we can't just like play poker if we want to, but whether or not it's like 100% legal or what all the nuances are, I don't fully understand. And I ultimately kind of had to decide that like I don't think that it makes sense for me to put my face on something just in case it's like everyone gets arrested or it turns out it's like super illegal or whatever. But like deep in my guts, I felt like it was it like really stung and hurt a little bit, because then I believe that we should be allowed to play poker. And I feel similar in so many ways to ACR. I believe that poker players that are located in the United States who want to play poker, who also want to like promote their brand, should be allowed to and encouraged to get paid money to put their faces on whatever, sites they want. And that it is ultimately people's responsibility to choose to know where they're putting their money. But for example, Alan Harris mentioned in the YouTube chat, people don't do research. I've been scammed before, like it's definitely easy to get yourself into a spot where you lose your money. So I don't know. I think it's definitely tough. And I guess what I will ask you, Jason, because I think that Mo did bring up an interesting point, which is we've had a pretty clear example of a like pitchforks situation in the poker world with everything with Full Tilt, right? That being said, the responses to different members of Team Full Tilt were extremely varied and different. And so, Jason, I wanted to ask you, do you see the distinction between people who put their face on something and people who are maybe just more connected to what's happening in the back end? Or what was your reaction to the varied responses to the people from Full Tilt?
Okay, so in that case, with Full Tilt, if you had knowledge that this was a Ponzi scheme, or that the money wasn't safe, yes, you're on a completely different level at that point. You've gone well beyond the scope of our conversation of just warning people. That is a huge whistle that needs to be blown at that point. And I'm not saying, I don't know if we'll ever know what Ferguson actually knew and what he didn't know, but people are under the impression that he knew more than, let's say, a Phil Ivey knew, because of his involvement with the operations of the company. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. Uh, a weirder example to me would be, let's say, how a Phil Hellmuth basically, he was the face of the brand of Ultimate Bet even before the first scandal, the whole super user scandal. He stayed on, very little said during it. And, he wasn't overtly promoting the band with tweets, come play with me at Ultimate Poker, blah, 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 doing Twitch streams. He was basically just wearing a patch, with Ultimate back and once in a while doing some grand entrances. So I don't think he had insider information, but at the same time, he saw what a mess this company was and continued to represent them through Black Friday. He gets off no problem. And Annie Duke had a big black eye afterwards, and then she didn't help herself by hopping in with what was it, Epic Poker League? Yeah, Epic Poker League that never had their $1 million free roll for the players, which basically cemented her place. But you still see her on mainstream media promoting poker as if nothing happened, So maybe it wasn't as bad as, let's say, like a Ferguson situation, where I think even mainstream media knows to stay away from from him, unless it's to talk about what happened at Full Tilt. But yeah, I think to answer your question, yes, there's a huge difference if you know that there's shit going down and you don't do anything about it. I'm not saying you're as bad as the people that are actually doing the shit or ordering the shit, but you're complacent at that point. If you don't say anything to people, it may be too late at that point, but yes, at that point, I understand you may have to put food on the table, but this thing is going to fall apart and blow up anyway. You should warn people as quickly as possible.
Okay, so just to wrap it up, I'm going to ask you guys, because I do think both of you actually probably, as we spoke about before this, fall more on the side of, yeah, there is definitely like some moral responsibility. But let me just ask you, you're sort of faces of poker news, but I'm just going to go like next level. And let's just say a site such as ACR came to you, Jason, and said, I want you to represent ACR. I will give you $7,000 a month and you don't have to pay any rake, and you just have to be an ambassador for us, whatever that means. But you cannot say anything negative about us in like press or social media or whatever. Would you be willing to take that deal, or would you say, nope,
kind of like
I
the
would
$1
only
million
do it if I
question.
could say that the site is unsafe for your money?
Yeah, I mean, I don't, it would come down to, let's say, okay, not for 7K. Okay, let's just put it like that.
What are you,
Obviously that would
rich?
be nice to have, but it's not worth, selling your soul for. It's not that I'm saying you're selling your soul if you do this, but it wouldn't be worth it to me at that point. And that's a lot of money to me. I'm not raking it in or anything, working, doing what I'm doing. It isn't something that I'd be interested in, and I've led my life that way quite a lot, actually. I was making quite a bit, I had a good career as a financial controller for many, many years, but I wasn't enjoying doing it. It wasn't like a moral or ethical thing. It was more of like a life thing. It's like, I want to be happy with what I'm doing. And if the money isn't as good as something that I have potential to make more money for, so be it, and that would be the case here. Now, of course, if it was like a golden lottery ticket and they came down and would say, we're going to give you, $1 million to do this for 2 years, then that is obviously a different conversation. That would, maybe I would sell myself out at that point, but I would like to think that I would hold true, but it's very difficult, at some point. I think there's an indecent proposal question for, for anyone. You find something that stretches
Maybe
what you think
slightly
you would
more
do
morally
morally.
ambiguous than a
Yeah,
decent proposal.
but you understand what I'm saying, though, where it's basically stretching, the moral stratosphere of what you would feel comfortable doing. And
Okay,
I
so
have nothing
Jason's like a
against
really good
ACR.
guy.
I think it's fine, but I don't
Got
want
it.
to
Mo,
promote it.
let's talk legit right here. And let's just to be super crazy, let's say they offer you $10K a month. okay, to be the face. You're a very well-respected person in the poker community. They want you to be the face. All you have to do is just don't say anything negative about them in your like socials, and maybe like let them take some pictures and stuff of you. 10K a month. Mo, are you gonna take that deal?
I think I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna do a trash job. I know I'm gonna do a trash job.
Where do you guys work? Do we work for the same place? Like,
I
what is
mean,
going on?
do I get to keep doing my own job? I guess maybe now I have a lot of money if I do that. But no, I mean, it's just a situation where I know I'm gonna do a trash job anyway, you know, because my heart's not in it. I'm not gonna be out here like if I really believed in it, then yeah, that would be a different story, right? But um as somebody, you know, they take me on a tour, show me the back end, show me everything. I bring you know, my friend who's a programmer, he tells me it's all legit, it's all good. Yeah, then I might think about it, right? But I don't know, you know, I don't know, and I don't know enough to sit here and preach to anybody about it, I guess. So I think it would be a little bit too uncomfortable and just like yeah, I don't know, not quite the situation I'd want to find myself in, I guess. I just don't, I know that the second they say, oh, well, you know, come take your picture over here or make a video clip of yourself playing, I wouldn't feel that good about it, you know?
Okay, so
You
how
bring up a,
rich for both of
but
you guys? I want to make sure that just in case ACR gets wind of this little debate, that while I was a little concerned about putting my face on something in case I got arrested or whatever, if you want to pay me 10K a month to put my face all over yours, I'll even like take like sexy pictures sometimes if you want. Like what ACR, I'm available to put my face all over, and I will never talk shit about your site if you want to pay me 10K a month, or even it might be less. We can negotiate.
I want to add to what Mo was saying there, though. It's interesting. I agree with Mo that if I was able to take a look, you know, with my accounting and auditing experience, if I was able to have a look at their financials on a periodic basis to assure that, let's say, this money actually exists in segregated accounts, and if the shit hits the fan, you know, that you know everything is okay, you know, and that I can then legitimately feel that I feel that the money is safe, then it would be a different story. But I doubt that they're giving ambassadors that kind of look, like in any
No, they're
poker
not giving anybody
operation.
that kind of like, even
So that
the
would be
poker
kind of it,
companies.
where then I would do it for less than $7,000 a month, you know, because I would feel good about it, you know. But if I don't feel good about it, $7,000 a month is, and the amount of
Do you feel
heartache
like
for
you
that is not
represent
worth it.
Poker News?
I mean, I am with PokerNews for so long now, and you know, while I can do freelancing stuff, I do consider myself representing PokerNews on the road, unless, you know, I'm doing something independently. If I'm in the poker room locally, most people just know me as the you know, the American guy that's been adopted in Lithuania, you know. But a lot of them know that I work for PokerNews as well, you know. And if they have,
And
you
do
know, they
you
know they can come
believe
talk to me
on,
about poker stuff, and, you know, from that regard as well, or come to me if they saw something reported on
I
them
don't care about all the
incorrectly,
other stuff.
etc.
I care
Okay,
about
sorry.
if you feel like you are representing Poker News, you are a representative of Poker News. Do you believe on Poker News and most of the decisions they make? And do you trust sort of all of the powers that be at Poker News?
I mean,
Like, we don't know the financials of our company, probably.
yeah, but we're not affecting anyone. You know, like nothing I'm doing for Poker News, or that Poker News is doing in general, I feel is bad. You know, like you know, there's no, you know, where, you know, like, okay, once in a while, maybe someone will say, you know, you have too many promos about that topic. Okay, so don't read the promos. You know, they're promos. They're in a promo section usually, or in a blurb about promo. You know, there's nothing wrong with these promos. This promo may not be right for you. That promo might be right for you, but everybody loves promos. Everybody loves free stuff. So I'm not concerned about it from that end. And, you know, like you know, that doesn't really affect how I would look at my job from a moral standpoint, you know, like who would be on top. And I don't know enough about it. You know, you know, I don't know how much I can share and not share, but let's just say there's been organizational changes, you know, over the course of years, many, you know, different organizational changes, and very little that affects how I look at the company or how I look at what I'm doing. It affects, let's say, what the future of the company may transform into, or who might be working with me in the company, or who I might even be working for, which has changed many times as well. But yeah, I don't see that as a problem. It's not the same as like a poker site, where people are depositing money. Nobody's depositing money with Poker News. They're depositing their time hoping for an investment in return of being entertained or educated, or told about some value somewhere.
Do you, Mo, feel like you represent Poker News in some ways? And do you feel in line most of the time with all of the decisions and things made there?
Definitely not always. And when people say things to me about things that maybe I don't agree with, I just say, that's above my pay grade. I'm not, that's not up to me. So I think that's a reasonable answer. And I think a lot of what Jason said is pretty reasonable as well. It is more of an investment of like time and effort, hoping to be entertained, right? Or educated. And yeah, we're not holding on to anybody's money. If we were, I would definitely want to feel good about where the hell the money was. But yeah, to answer the question, do I feel like I am a representative of Poker News? I guess I do. I think I don't know where the line is, I guess, between different jobs, but like when I'm a waiter or whatever, when I was a waiter, right? I don't feel like I'm a representative of the restaurant when I'm away from the restaurant. It has nothing to do with me, I would want to think, right? But I guess in our industry, we're always interacting with people, right? And I mean, it would be nice to just interact with them in a way that you're just a person, right? Or you're just a part of the poker industry, but inevitably it's going to be tied back to you. So I think just the sharp play is just to always imagine that you are on the clock when you're interacting with people, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I do think I will say this as we wrap out this debate. I, of course, was coming into this knowing that I was going to take a hard stance on the side, which I thought was the least represented based on our czar of social media's sending out a few different questions yesterday. Apparently 70% of the poker world thinks that absolutely, as an ambassador, you have a moral responsibility. So I came in pretty hard, but all that being set aside, I love that this is a question. I think actually, Jason, you maybe brought it up that this would be an interesting topic of debate. And it is something that we've debated in the poker community. And this is something that I just really value and appreciate about the poker community as a whole, is that we are pretty consistently looking at and really to a very specific degree, constantly questioning what someone with integrity would do in some spots, what's the right thing to do, what's the logical thing to do, reevaluating all the time how we work as an industry in order to do what is the best thing and the most morally responsible thing. And so I'm always proud to be a part of this industry, even though I am definitely probably the least morally responsible person in the industry as a whole. I really appreciate this conversation, and I appreciate all of your guys's feedback on Twitch, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, and we will have another debate next month. So if you guys have some ideas for what you think would be a great next debate, please let us know. And anything, do you guys want to say anything quickly before I release you?
Just special thank you to you, Sarah, and to the man behind the scenes, Jesse. I don't know if he's up on the screen now, but hopefully he got himself up on the screen. Thanks, Jesse, for doing everything behind the scenes. And shout out to all the Poker News peeps that might be listening. I don't know if Yori and Will and Matt and Chad are all listening, but shout out to you and to the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing I did think about, Sarah, was one thing you said I think is really a little bit interesting and sharp, is like your point about, are you taking an affiliate check or are you just taking like a flat appearance fee? I think that's actually a pretty interesting distinction, and something to think about. And then another thing, I guess, to think about is it just like popped into my head, but just a parting thought, I guess, is how would people feel if you were referring people to these sites and it just said, like, in big bold letters, like when you're signing up, hey, this site is unlicensed in your jurisdiction. I wonder if that would change anything for anybody's thought process, I guess.
It's like, does putting the thing on the cigarettes that like is a picture of your lungs, does
Yeah,
that
that's what I
keep
mean.
anyone? Yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting. It is an interesting question, and I'm sure someone has the data on it. I'm sure, and I think we will certainly see it. But I think it's interesting, and it's one of the things mentioned in the YouTube chat is, like, I think Texas is a really interesting example of sort of a microcosm of something kind of similar, where we can see that people understand that it's maybe not like fully legal, or the nuances of the legality here are probably unclear to a lot of the regulars. Even I think some of the people running the shows are not 100% sure how it's all working. And yet, like, we're having record numbers and record guarantees. And I do think, from what I can see, it seems like gamblers gonna gamble. Hey, yo. But it would be interesting to do a little like beta testing on signing up, and if you could get those bold letters. Anyways, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Jesse, thank you for being the voice, the Wizard of Oz behind the scenes. And again, we really appreciate you guys jumping into these conversations. I'm really proud always to be a part of them. And we will catch you next month. And if you don't, be sure to follow us on Twitter. If you're not already up in our Twitch, get in there, get on our YouTube, sub, hit the bell. If you're on Facebook, why didn't you leave a comment, or why can't I see any of the comments on Facebook? This is what happened to me last time. All right, cool. Deuces, you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Who are we gonna raid?